Oh, hey, what's up, dude? Glad you made it. Just in time for the party. Come on in.
Hello, and welcome to The Social Distance, a podcast where we get to hang out and take it easy. I'm seriously still just in my PJs, but hey, I go back to work next week and I'm just trying to live my best life. Anyway, look who's talking. You too are in your PJs. It is April 30th, 2020, and I am your host, Israel Rodriguez, and right now, listeners, we are in Dr. Rankenstein's laboratory, listening to some sweet sounds that he's cooking up. Let's take a moment to just relax and enjoy the sounds of life and also the sounds of years of hard work and practice. Hey, this is Izz,
That was pretty sweet, huh?
and again, that was Dr. Rankenstein. I got a chance to speak with him, and this is what he had to say.
Wrong.
What an interesting guy, and we can definitely check in on him in future episodes. What I got planned for today is gonna rock your socks. We're gonna have music, we're gonna have dancing, we're gonna have some snacks, if that is your thing, along with cake and ice cream. We will enjoy today to the best of our abilities, and, well, basically, we are going to have a party. A change party. That's right, a change party. And I have this trusty kalimba to sail us through my explanation of what a change party actually is. A change party is where we take a small but ceremonious moment to notice all the change that is happening around us, the change that is happening to us, and the change that is happening within us. Yes, those are all different things. Around us, the world and society as a whole has changed so much. We are more cautious, we are more aware of our place and our time on this planet. We are facing new challenges like social distancing, and we're undergoing the process of adaptation. As far as the changes that happen to us, I am personally going back to work next week, and that's going to be kind of different. I will have to adapt to new habits, such as remembering to bring my face mask, and maybe get used to people who are a little bit more worried, a little bit more on edge, but hey, it is only temporary, and we will keep growing from these experiences, which leads me to the change that happens within us. The change that happens within us comes from what we take from the situation, or any situation that you find yourself in, how we react to it, and how we come out of it. Me and the universe can only hope that you are happy and satisfied with the person that you are at the end of the journey that you're taking. Listeners, that is what we're celebrating today. Change and all of its extremities. I just got this image of the concept of change being an actual, tangible entity with arms and legs and a business suit and a suitcase, maybe a Rolex, and some dapper shoes, and an agenda that is packed until next week. Though that is highly unlikely, because change cares for no such things. But like I said, that's what our party's going to be about. And now is an appropriate time to talk about some changes regarding us. Sit down. I think we need to talk. Look, it's not you. It's me. Just kidding. It's not that dramatic. As you may or may not know, this podcast is for Griffin Radio and the class that I'm taking. Well, long story short, but I will now only be releasing an episode of this podcast once a week. I know that means less time to hang out, but please do not worry. I will still be around and I will still be talking on air. In fact, I'm going to be using that time instead to make a music program called What's the Alternative? With yours truly. That's right. You will get to hang out with me for an hour and listen to some indie and alternative music. I love the genres of alternative and indie. They're just such massive blanket terms, and I think this is just ultimately serves as an excuse for me to hang out with you and to show you some jams. It's like selfishly taking control of the aux cord for an hour while I give you insight and facts about your favorite music that plays. The thing is, for regulatory reasons, I will not be releasing it on YouTube, but rather, it'll come out on our very own Griffin radio station on the TuneIn app. That is right, our own station on the TuneIn app. It's a free app that you can download on your smartphone and it lets you listen to the radio, and you can find me there if you truly will miss my voice. Like I said, I will still be here once a week, probably still on Thursdays or perhaps the occasional Friday, but I will also be over there at that show for once a week as well. Check it out. You can also follow Griffin Radio on all social media sites to be updated on all things related to me, all things related to the station, and all things related to me. And there is another big change that will be occurring after this week. I will be changing the name of this podcast. And what's the new name, you ask? It is what it is. That's it. That's the name. It is what it is. With me, Izz. I know you think there's a whole team of geniuses working with me to come up with all this wild stuff, but believe it or not, it's just me. Yep, it's just me here in quarantine. But things are going to change, and one can only hope that social distancing becomes a thing of the past. And when that happens, what's going to become of the relevancy regarding the name? I need to think ahead of these things, you know. But friends, I promise you, it's still going to be a fun show. We're still going to hang out. We're still going to take it easy. We're still going to have interviews and guests and laughs and smiles and ugly crying faces and
Reminiscing.
and lots of music and sounds and... Oh wait. Is that an improvised bass jam in C pentatonic that I hear? See? New name, same grand old time. I actually started messing around with different tunings on my bass. Not that I have a lot of options though. Usually the bass strings, they're tuned to E, A, D, and G, but I tuned them even lower, and now they are D, G, C, and F. Now, it may not sound too different from other bass sounds, but trust me, it's another different type of sound, and that was just something new that I wanted to try out. I won't be playing bass for much of this episode. Rather, the bass is going to make a cameo every now and then throughout all the episodes, but you'll just have to listen to find out when exactly. I'm getting some new bass strings, and I'll probably show those off here when they arrive, and you're going to want to listen to those guys. Trust me, if you have not heard the sounds of a fresh set of bass strings, my goodness. Please, if you just take one thing from this podcast, let it be the delicious sounds of fresh bass strings. It sounds and it feels amazing, like eating peanut butter or strawberries with your ears. And that'll be coming soon. So I'm telling you, keep on hanging out here. Now, if you are new here, that might have been a lot of information, but this joyride is an easy one to hop into. We like to keep things chill here. In fact, today I figured we would I'm going to be honest. I was torn between talking about some movies, talking about music, listening to the sounds of nature, and reading from my favorite book, The Thesaurus. So I figured we can just do a little of all those things, because why not? Those are the things that people do sometimes, and this hour belongs to us. So, let's get started, although we got into the episode already, but no rules though. Let's set some vibes with a track called Green Catacombs and the Potential They Come With. This is a track from the absolutely talented artist Mona Clay, and it is one of my favorites of his. I helped a little bit with the mixing, so listening to it takes me back to a time, and I want to take you back to that time with me. A time back in 2015 when I was a lot younger but still living on my own in San Diego in an apartment that was usually empty. It was just me. I had just stopped going to college because I wasn't feeling so good about it, and I was trying to figure out myself first, as much as I could at least. I kind of felt like I had just jumped right into deep water without knowing how to swim. I guess luckily I wasn't drowning, just kind of awkwardly splashing. I mean, I was lucky enough to practically have my own apartment in a city like San Diego, lonely as it may have been, but I was working a lot. Anyway, some days I would have company, and I was always so grateful to hang out with my talented friends, Mona Clay being one of them. One of those days he came over and he was just noodling around with this idea, and we decided to capture it. I remember walking down the street to the rabbit hole to catch their 5 to 7 p.m. happy hour and having a celebratory cold one in honor of capturing something that we can now share with the world. I was grateful for his company in a time that I think carried lots of changes for the both of us. This song captures all those feelings, all those memories, and more, and I thought it appropriate to play during our change party. I hope you guys enjoy it, and check out Mona Clay on Bandcamp if you dig the jam, and I'll talk to you afterwards. Potent hate flows through my veins. Pretty neat, right? I'm glad you stuck around, and just let me know if you want more fruit punch. Before I talk a little bit about movies, let me read some cool randomly picked word from my humongous, peaceful looking thesaurus. I mean it, this thing is just a nice soft yellow, it's perfectly worn out. It even has some smudges and doodles on the cover. I bought this bad boy here at a thrift store, and it is easily one of my top 5 favorite purchases. Just a big book full of words with no other context other than that of what a thesaurus does. It carries no ideas of its own, just straight, unbiased information, and nowadays that's a rare thing to stumble upon. So yeah, let's open it up and let's see what we find here. And remember, it's just a thesaurus, so it might not give us the whole definition of a word, but it does give us just enough information so that we can do some like minor detective work of our own, as far as relating the word to its own synonyms and antonyms. All right. Okay, here's a cool one. The word is jape, and some of its synonyms include joke, jest, waggery, witticism, and yak. Huh. I feel like I got some answers, but I also feel like I got some questions. Like, what exactly is waggery? Anyway, next time you go on joking, you can just tell your friends that you are just japing. Like, I'm just japing, bro. Well, actually, it does say that the word is a noun, so I guess you would be making a jape? Yeah, you can be like, hey man, I'm just trying to make a jape here. So let's talk movies. I mean, I'm not going to get too into movies, though I'm sure there's a time and place for me to try to do that in the future. I do enjoy movies a lot, but today I just wanted to quickly share some of my favorite movies just so you know a little bit more about me. Something quick, low stakes, and of course, highly subjective. Everyone has their own taste in movies, and that is totally fine. In fact, first, here are some other cool people describing their favorite movies.
Disney, a goofy movie. Max doesn't like his father. He thinks he's annoying, and then he goes to impress a girl with a Powerline concert in school. He goes home to find that his dad planned a long trip to take to keep him out of trouble. Then they go on this long trip. He's mad at his dad. His dad's trying to bond. Then they get into a weird situation with Bigfoot. They bond. And then they go down a river. His dad almost dies, and then his dad sneaks him into the Powerline concert. They go home. The son, Goofy, no, Max, tells Roxanne the truth, and they go home happy. I don't know.
I'm gonna describe The Lion King.
Alright, man. Your favorite movie in 30 seconds.
So there's this janitor in New York City, I think, or Massachusetts, if it's not the same thing. And the janitor's a genius with the photographic memory. And he is also a huge troublemaker that is afraid of commitment and trust. And one day he gets himself into huge trouble, but one of the professors at where he works, which happens to be MIT, notices his intelligence, takes him under his wing, and then carries him on through his late adolescent life, and that's the story of that movie, and it's great. The Lion King.
Ah, The Lion King. It really is just as beautiful as that last person described it. Just kidding. I gotta tell you guys, I actually don't really remember growing up with that movie. In fact, the only conscious memory I have of watching it is in 2017, and that's kind of recent. What I did grow up on was Star Wars. Every single one of those movies holds a special place in my heart, some of them even carrying my favorite memories of distant family and midnight showings. I mean, I would go dressed up to some of these things. Even the new ones are enjoyable to me, and goodness gracious, I know some people have real strong opinions on the sanctity of the Star Wars franchise, but I think some of those tough critics just forget what it's like to see movies as a kid. I mean, it might not be the end-all, be-all of great movies, but they got lasers, and swords, and robots, and Death Stars, and aliens. There's good guys, and bad guys, and adventure, and everything I can ever ask for as a kid with an attention span that wasn't and still isn't very big. When I watch those movies, it turns into a nostalgic hangout with my 5-year-old self, who actually cried in the theaters at the end of The Phantom Menace, when Qui-Gon Jinn died. I think that's when I found out that movies weren't real, but still I was very invested in those characters and that whole world. Also, if you haven't watched the movie, I may have just spoiled it for you, but it came out 21 years ago, so I don't feel too bad, and I'll totally let you borrow it if you ever do want to see it. Like I said, when you watch those movies, just try to step into the shoes of a younger self. It's a lot more enjoyable that way. Actually, I think when you get to a certain age, everything seems more enjoyable when you step into the shoes of your younger self. I also grew up with Terminator 2, which is a great movie even to this day. I used to enjoy this movie called Mars Attacks, which is a wild movie, and if you haven't seen it, I suggest you do. I think it has some sort of history in sci-fi. It is a staple. The aliens in the movie are so iconic. And one movie that I watched that was wildly inappropriate for a kid my age to be watching was a movie called Starship Troopers. This one too is about aliens, but it's a lot gorier than the other movies mentioned here. It's set in the future, and these aliens are bug-like and they attack us humans, though amongst rewatching the movie as an adult, there are some intense political and dystopian underlining to it. Funny how that works, right? I totally did not catch any of these weird details as a kid, and seeing the movie as an adult shocked me a bit, and it made me think about what other media I was consuming at that age that, I was unaware of the intense adult themes that were being dealt with. I'm not angry or offended by it, I am just curious. Movies like that had to be responsible for shaping some part of my brain growing up, right? Maybe I was subconsciously exposed to ideas that I couldn't comprehend at the time, and maybe they manifested in ways that I couldn't or didn't even know how to get a grip on. Maybe that's why I hate the shape of fleas and ticks, and joined a punk band in high school. There must be something like that in your childhood too, right? Some sort of media that had mature, complex themes and purposes that were intentionally delivered straight to your unintentional conscious. Think about it. And keep thinking as we play this jam. Here is a spooky instrumental, Nostalgia sold separately. This one is from Scoots the Ghost, and if you haven't heard of that guy, that's okay. Just chill out. Kinda spooky, huh? And speaking of spooky, I am also a huge fan of horror movies, even the bad ones. Though if I had to choose between the bad ones and the good ones, I probably would go with the good ones. But both are fun. I feel like scary movies get this weird reputation for not always delivering the best storylines or the best acting, and sometimes that is the case. But just like Star Wars, I think you gotta watch them through a specific lens or a frame of mind to get the most out of them. Horror movies are like the sugary snacks of cinema. They might not be the best, most prepared, or nutritious meal, but they can be tasty, and there is definitely an occasion for them. And I believe you must enjoy them as such. I don't go into horror movies expecting a hearty meal, but sometimes you may get full from eating lots of snacks. I don't know, I'm not even sure if the analogy is still relevant, but now I'm kinda craving gummy worms. One of my favorite horror movies is The Mist, and although it is full of scary, obviously CGI monsters, you find out that the real monster can be fear itself, and the ending is insane. I also enjoyed the movie 28 Days Later. That one has this element of loneliness that is just so haunting. There are so many others that I really enjoy, especially being that that genre of movie is the one I indulge in the most. Oh, I'm also a big fan of all things Quentin Tarantino. I really enjoy the way his stories flow and the way they're written. Actually, here's a quick summary of one of his movies, Django.
My favorite movie is Django Unchained. It's about this slave. He's being across. He's met by this guy, and he frees them kind of, and they become what's it called? Where they pick up criminals and then they get bounty hunters. There you go. And yeah, they take on a bunch of slave owners and they get up in the meantime. But yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah, that dude is a pretty good writer and director, though I think the man himself is a bit off at times. My favorite movie of his has a name that I probably can't say on here, but if you want a good movie of his to start with, I recommend the classic Pulp Fiction. That movie is a full course meal, though I will warn you it has some intense and inappropriate scenes on there, so maybe don't watch it with children. Recently, I've been trying to play cultural catch up by watching some of those Studio Ghibli films. They are an animation studio that has released some popular movies such as Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro. In fact, here's a quick summary of My Neighbor Totoro.
Studio Ghibli's Totoro. There's a family that moves to a new house, then they find lots of dust bunnies in there, and then they find Totoro, and they go and visit their mom in the hospital, and then they have Totoro bring them back to their mom later on in the film when they think that she's about to pass away, but she's not. She's okay, don't worry. And then they all live happily ever after because their mom comes home healthy.
Remind us, who's Totoro again?
Totoro is the spirit of the forest. He's like a bunny, a cat, a raccoon, and other cute animals mixed into one. Ooh, an owl.
Oh. Seriously, these movies are beautiful to watch. Most of the time they come loaded with beautiful messages and themes. They always bring to the table this stunning animation that is so full of many colors and creatures. I wish I had seen these movies as a kid, and I'm sure that would have ignited some sort of artistic, creative passion in me. I'm not saying that I don't create now, but the visuals in these movies are just so mesmerizing that I probably would have started trying to draw at a much younger age had I seen them, rather than trying to start at 23.
It's never too late to start anything, don't forget that.
I want to say that I'm not just all about science fiction and scary monsters as if I had some sort of childhood trauma that I'm holding on to in a weird way, though that can very much be the case, I don't know for certain, but I also really do enjoy the movie Toy Story. That one and the second one were just so special to me, and Cloudy with the Chance of Meatballs is another absolutely superb movie in my opinion, and that one is fun for the whole family. I think the soundtrack to 500 Days of Summer is so cool and it has some cool scenes, and I'll also eat up any movie that is Seth Rogen related. I really enjoyed the movie Spy Kids. Those were so fascinating to watch when I was younger, and they are still pretty cool even now. I also have an uncle whose name is Robert Rodriguez, just like the director of Spy Kids, and my uncle used to tell me that he was the actual director of those movies. That is why his name would appear on screen. I don't think I ever fully believed him, though I'm sure some part of me was secretly hoping that my uncle was involved with those movies, but he wasn't. He was just japing. He was making a jape at my expense. But that's okay. He's a cool guy. I would have done the same thing to mess with my nephew, if I had one, which I don't yet. I am the oldest brother, so I gotta wait a while for those other kiddos to get older and have babies. Anyway, that pretty much sums up my movie preferences, though all other movie types I did not mention are probably pretty cool too. Honestly, I'm not that picky with movies. In fact, I just love the act of going out, taking yourself on a nice date to the movie theater, and enjoying the experience in its entirety. Good or bad, someone already did the hard work for you. Just sit back, relax after a long day of quarantine, and just watch a movie. Maybe not in theaters, just yet, but on Netflix or something like that. Hey, so I hope you've been enjoying the change party so far. The music is chilling, and those other homies are pretty funny, though kinda weird. I get it. You know what, though? Come over here. I got something I want to show you. Here. Just stand in this room and listen. No, I mean really, listen. Do you guys hear that? It's sound. What's up, guys? It's me again. It's Izz. I would actually be concerned if it was anyone else. That would be pretty weird. So I walked to the park again, just to get some fresh air. Again, it's good to just not coop yourself up in the house. I mean, it's also important to keep your social distance, but going outside, stretching your legs, and looking at the world, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to do. It's actually also nice to see the life that's at the park. There was a couple people here earlier, and they were doing some sort of maintenance, or maybe maintenance is not the word. Like groundskeeping, I think. Maintaining. Well, that's maintenance. Huh. Well, they were cutting the grass and trimming the trees. Yard work, but for a park. I'm sure there's a better word for that, but it's not really coming to mind right now. There was some people practicing some sort of dance over by the benches on the other side of the park from where I am at right now, but I can still see them practicing their dance. That was pretty cool. There's a lot of people working out, which is good. That's important. A lot of dogs getting walked. The dogs must be really having a blast through all of this. Just get to hang out with their owner and stuff. Oh. There's also kids misbehaving. But you know, kids will be kids. And that's good. That's good to know that there's still kids acting like kids during a pandemic. I mean, just gotta make sure they're safe, but looks like they're having a good time as a family over there. I brought some pen and paper just in case I was going to draw something or write a thought down. That's something that I definitely encourage. I mean, if it's a common thing, so if you haven't already, but if you haven't already, do start some sort of journal, or I like to have just a bunch of different sketchbooks. Not necessarily filled with sketches, but I have the option to sketch if I want to. But I just find it a little easier to be freer or more free with my thoughts when I write on paper that's not lined. But that's just my preference. But either way, you know, get something like a notebook and just fill it with something. Fill it with anything. It could be anything. It doesn't even have to be important. It doesn't have to be an idea that's chiseled and refined. It can be anything. I mean, it's just for yourself. It could be full of ideas that become something, or it could not. Don't put any pressure on this notebook, you know? Just have something that you can open up and jot down an idea. A lot of people use their phone. I use my phone. I have my, like, a little memo app on there. I definitely write myself memos or thoughts and ideas there for sure. But if I have the chance and a pen and a paper, I try to write it down. I mean, the thought itself, whether it's of significance or not, that's subjective. That may or may not be up to you to decide. But I think it's more about the act of getting comfortable with putting stuff down on a piece of paper. You know what I'm saying? There's a beauty to that. She needs her phone.
Give me my phone, Brayden!
Oh, goodness.
Now! Bernard!
See, that's what's kind of cool about living life and then getting into something that allows you to capture like moments of life. I just got this little handy recorder
You little brat!
pretty recently, and
Brat!
oh
Bernard,
goodness,
are we going running tonight?
oh man,
Are you gonna go running tonight?
and
Huh?
just like the glimpses of life that you capture with these devices that are available today. These little moments with no context, like this lady shouting, "Hey, we're gonna go running tonight." Like, that's cool, you know. There's no context to that. There's not a lot of context to that. Obviously, she's asking her friend if they're gonna go running, but I mean, you know a little bit more about her, I guess. You know that she likes running. You know that she likes running with her homie. And that she has someone close to her named Raiden, which is a cool name. Maybe she's a fan of Mortal Kombat. You know, like, there's a lot of, even just the way people say things or write them down, or the words they choose, that there's a lot you can get from all that.
It's 2 in the morning.
I've been trying to do these walks a little more often, and every time I go out, I always stumble upon something pretty cool. Or at least I guess I'm lucky to hear some fascinating things. I don't, you know, I'm not even lucky. I think if you listen, you will hear some crazy stuff. And if you have the tools to capture it, I think you will capture some crazy stuff. That's just my theory. But I wouldn't know. Today's doodle isn't as intricate as the one I was doing last time when I was hanging out at the park, but I mean, it's something. Kind of looks like a I mean, it's not supposed to be anything specific, but there's like some shapes in here that remind me of certain things. Like there's a little chromosome looking kind of figure, you know, like when you're in science class and you learn about chromosomes. They kind of look like little X shapes. They're like little bundles of stuff, and they're in the shape of an X or some sort of X-like character. There's something like that on here. And there's like some elements of maybe what looks like a sunflower. And then other elements of what look like they can belong to a harp. So you got chromosomes, a harp, and a sunflower. I mean, it obviously doesn't look like any of these things. I'm not that great at drawing, but it's just a bunch of lines, and that's what it reminds me of. And sometimes that is the art. You know, it's not necessarily the image that's on the paper, but like what you get from it. I don't know, dude, they're just theories. Looks like there's some construction going on in the back, actually, and trash can, trash people. Yeah, it's pretty nice outside. It is getting warmer, for sure. But it's okay. Well, guys, I'm gonna let you go now. Hope you had a good time here. I really do enjoy just hanging out. I mean, I'm looking at the time now, and I can't even believe that much time passed. I'm just sitting here, just breathing in the air, saying things out loud. I encourage you guys to do it. I mean, again, be safe, wear masks when you need to, sanitize. I got my hand sanitizer here. Just be aware, keep a distance. But remember that there's a lot of world out there still. I hope you guys took a minute to just slow down. That's what I'm going to try to really emphasize on these segments here of just nature sounds. I'm going to try to encourage you guys to just hang out. Be in the moment. And if the moment is hanging out with me, that's cool too, man. Be in this moment, and we can both be in this moment. I'm trying to get you as near to this moment as possible. As best as I can. Alright, guys, well, enjoy your day. Be safe, okay? Later, guys. Well, friends, I'm grateful if you have truly made it this far. I hope you have had as fun of a change party as I have. Work, this podcast, society, people, interactions, it's changing. But honestly, all that stuff is always changing. All that stuff and more. Change is as natural and as important as the sun, and the trees, and the bees. Well, maybe not the bees, they're something special. But, just take a minute to stop and soak in the change. If you allow yourself to feel it, to understand it, or at least to understand when it is out of your control, if you allow yourself small moments, small change parties like this, it makes things easier and just more enjoyable to navigate through. as opposed to letting change bite you by surprise, although you always knew it was there, listeners, shaking its rattle, warning you, scaring you, and worst case scenario, poisoning you, debilitating you somehow in the future. Change is in fact wonderful and should be embraced. If you really want to spend energy on being scared, go watch a horror movie. I recommend them. A Quiet Place is pretty recent. Maybe go try that one. And listen to tomorrow's episode because my guest is going to be really cool and we're going to go and play lots of DIY underproduced indie music. How cool is that? Well, I will see you guys tomorrow for the last episode that will bear the name The Social Distance. But until then, I am Izz, and this is The Social Distance. How about I slow clap you on your way out of here? Yeah.